What's up? It is a Tuesday. Tuesday Thoughts here on the SDH Network. John here, you there, and I'm trying to figure out, as Abby had mentioned yesterday, since we are now in the White Room, and I'm trying to figure out, I guess, how to sit so you're not blinded by the lighting above my head. I need like a key light or something like right there. So, John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by. This morning, it is Tuesday Thoughts, and this is where we kind of catch up on some things. And there's plenty to catch up on, as evidenced by my sheet, my incredibly scientific sheet, by the way, that has all of the pieces of information, all the different locations, all the pieces of news, what to talk about, where to talk about it, all those things. And so it's also whatever's on your mind this morning. We do have reports attached to Atlanta United report attached to Atlanta United to discuss, to bring into the fray here in the middle of January. We've got news out of San Jose. We've got news out of, or reports out of, and news out of Vancouver. Let's see, we've got news out of Toronto, news out of Cincinnati, reports out of out of Cincinnati, reports out of the Premier League involving money, reports out of Liga MX involving AI and player signings, news out of reports out of Major League Soccer involving internal trade mechanisms, and news out of Boston involving the Reds. So that's kind of where we are this morning, and anything that is on your mind as we go. So this morning we do not have a guard dog guarding. The guard dog is sleeping. So once again, I apologize for yesterday, especially for those of you that might have listened to the show after the fact, and you're wondering what in the blue hell was going on. So to recap yesterday, for those that didn't have the opportunity to listen first and foremost, or watch first and foremost, once again, this is Beach Week. So that means that it is the week of the year where the boss and I come down and we stare at the Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of Mexico, for those of you who are watching on the video version, is off to my left. And I can duck out a door, go down a hallway, and I can see the Gulf of Mexico. That's what the boss wants to do anniversary week every single year. So that's what we do. And 2 days ago, Sunday was our 12th anniversary. And so we drove down yesterday, just because of how it just seems like from Thanksgiving. Sorry, this is opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't have a QR code yet, but we'll get into Kickoff Coffee. Once again, Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. We'll get into all of the stuff on the backside involving Kickoff Coffee and all of our other friends here on the show. So Sunday we drive down. That's our anniversary, but it just seems, and I mean, I don't know if it's me or if I'm alone in this, but it just seems to me that everything is just late. It's like Thanksgiving was late. Christmas was late. Later than normal on the calendar, at least the feels anyway. So everything just seems late. And so we drive down for anniversary week, and it's our 12th anniversary. And I'll let you know what I got the boss coming up in a bit. And so we drive down on Sunday, and that's our 12th anniversary. And so we're down here for the week. We are down here, and it was rainy and cold and nasty. And the boss tried to leave to go to something back in Atlanta and got stuck at the Tallahassee airport, and ended up driving an hour and a half and then driving an hour and a half back because the flights were pushed back. And that's another thing entirely involving airlines and, oh boy, airlines and the windows that they have to make sure that you can leave a smaller town. Anyway, so we're here for the week, and the Gulf is over there. The Gulf is off to my left, about 200 yards. Half of that is sand dunes and everything, and then the rest of it is racing, and you can see the Gulf, and it's very, very pretty. And this is our week here. So that's why the background looks a little different. That's why everything looks a little different. And this is where, you try to sit there and you're like, well, okay, I pray that this is actually functioning. So that's where we are. But anyway, got the boss some pearls for her 12th anniversary, for our 12th anniversary, because I had, you look down the list and it's like, well, you could get this, or this. And you're kind of like, you're kind of sitting there and you're looking and it's like, I don't want to go here. I don't want to go here. I don't want to go here. And so what I ended up doing is, it is just, you go down and down and down and down and down. And it's just like, yeah, I'll go here. And so that's what I ended up doing. I got pearls for the boss for the anniversary. So that's where we are. Okay. And so that was, opening kickoff. And yesterday she tried to leave town, and you heard the rowdy man. He was being the guard dog that he always was, because the folks that come by and check the fire extinguishers were knocking on the door yesterday. That's what you heard. For those of you that were here yesterday, you were watching somebody knock on the fire extinguisher, knock on the door to check out the fire extinguishers. So that's where we are. All right. Okay. So that's opening kickoff. We're back to normal, or as normal as it can be. Sun is shining. You can see the water. It's glistening. It's blue, and there's sand. So that's the story for the week. But it's supposed to rain before the time we're supposed to leave to head back to Atlanta on Sunday. So that's where we are. All right. So you know about the boss, you know about the anniversary, you know about the beach, and me trying to adjust here and try to figure out my posture to where you're not seeing things, shining in your face for the entire show. All right. So that's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You can go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You start your day with them, and we suggest that you buy them out. Because what you do is when you buy them out, you can buy it at a 15% discount. So you buy the store out, but then you're only spending 85% of what you would, because you use the code SoccerDownHere15 at checkout. When you use the code SoccerDownHere15 at checkout, once again, 15% off, but then they in turn take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiatives, stuff they've earmarked as cool. That's our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Other things you can do. Don't know if you have seen the collaboration with our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. You can get the sweatshirts and the t-shirts that Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta. You can get it in red. You can get it in black. We have the sweatshirts here. The boss is wearing her black one this morning, as a matter of fact. And what you can do with Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. is help out middle school soccer programs attached to the Atlanta public school system. That's part of the dynamic with our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. Olive and York. You can get the first ever Soccer Down Here jersey, and you can get that there at Soccer Down Here. At Olive and York, you can get our first Soccer Down Here jersey, and that is thanks to our friends at Kaiser Permanente, Scott Flood and the Flood Project, and helping out all of the things that we've earmarked for programs for the Soccer for Good from the SDH perspective in 2025. So you can go to Olive and York, get your jersey. It's navy. And like I said, I was with Abby in thinking about various and sundry shades of navy, but apparently navy is just navy. Dark navy is just still navy. There is no darker navy. So you can get the navy jersey from our friends at Olive and York. That helps out the Soccer for Good that we've earmarked in 2025 for SDH. And also what you can do, our friends from the Marshall Islands. I have a scarf I have to send to Terre Haute, Indiana when I get back to Atlanta next week. You can go to the Marshall Islands website. You can see Maddie modeling. You can see Maddie modeling a scarf. And what we are doing is we are helping the Marshall Islands, the last country here on this planet, to start a national football program. So that's where we are with all of those. So Marshall Islands Project, Olive and York for the jersey. You can go to soccerdownhere.net, by the way, and get the SDH gear. This is old school gear. I don't know if some of the retro stuff might be there, but we do have the newer gear that's available at soccerdownhere.net. And once again, Grady Baby Co., and all of the places in between. So, hang on. So, Olive, New York, Marshall Islands, Grady Baby, soccerdownhere.net. So there you go. Those are the places that you can get all the gear and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Wanted to start off this morning with a report out of Turkey, and it involves Atlanta United. Don't know if you've had the opportunity to see that it is alleged, it is reported, it is not news, it is a report, that Atlanta United is interested in Krzysztof Piatek. And Krzysztof Piatek is currently right now at Başakşehir. We'll get into the statistics and everything coming up in just a little bit. But apparently, according to Sports Digital, and remember the last time that we were looking at things through Sports Digital, it was having to do with Saba Lobjanidze and the reports that we saw with Saba. So Sports Digital and the 280 character app that is associated with that, you have Sports Digital reporting an interest involving Krzysztof Piatek and Atlanta United. So well, first and foremost, what is up with Krzysztof Piatek? Now, the thing with Krzysztof Piatek, you might remember him. You might remember Piatek from his time in Serie A. And looking at the tracking of Piatek right now with his time at Başakşehir, last season he had a very, very successful time. Right now, market value of €6.5 million. So you're looking at Krzysztof Piatek, center forward, and that's where he plays. He is a 9. And it is a 9, and sometimes he will. There have been times where he would play behind as a second striker, but he's a 9. Where's 9 at Başakşehir, just to give you an idea. So, Super League statistics: 18 appearances, 13 goals, 1 assist, and he's been in the starting 11 on average 5 out of every 6 matches. So 15 starts and 18 appearances, 86% of the minutes played, and 48% of the goal participation that is attached to Piatek. So his history, just to give you an idea, at Başakşehir, he's been there, and he has until, I think, the end of, I'm going to look and see what his contract status is, and then we can get into detailed performance data. Fabryka Futbolu, the Polish folks that are his agents, that is currently where he is. So Super League, once again, 13 goals, positions played, center forward. He is a center forward. Trying to see national team career, 33 matches, 12 goals for the Polish national team. He's also had some reps at the U20 and U21. And where is his, I need the detail is what I need. And I also need his contract status, but I think his contract status is for another. This is what happens when you're also looking at it on a short device instead of a larger device. So we may just get into that. But anyway, Krzysztof Piatek, currently, here is his the history that he has. Once again, his history is dealing with Serie A was where he had his largest time of success and his highest value. Like I said, right now, 29 years old as a center forward. And I don't want just his Super League statistics. Come on, people. So in the Ekstraklasse, 102 matches in Serie A, 33 goals there. Spent some time in the Bundesliga, and he's also Super League, international friendlies, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where Piatek has spent most of his time. So last 2 seasons in Başakşehir, 52 goals in the Super League. 52 appearances in the Super League, 30 goals, and 2 assists. Before that, it was Salernitana and Fiorentina. So at Salernitana and Serie A, 33 matches, 4 goals, 5 assists. 21-22 season, he split time with Hertha Berlin and Fiorentina. And 21-22, it was 4 goals, 23 appearances. So that was where he spent time. So before then, it was a full season at Hertha, 32 matches, 7 goals, 2 assists, Bundesliga and Serie A, and spent time with AC Milan. So AC Milan, Hertha Berlin in the 1920 season, 33 appearances, 8 goals. Then from there, it was 18 appearances at AC Milan, 9 goals in 18-19. And before that, it was his first opening in Serie A was at Genoa. So Genoa, AC Milan ended up with 37 appearances and 22 goals in the 18-19 season. So 122 career goals for him in his National League appearances. And so that's where we are with Krzysztof Piatek this morning. So keep an eye on Krzysztof Piatek, and you can see what the reports are. So Başakşehir, Sport Digital, like I said, last time that we had seen things with Sport Digital, it was involved with Saba Lobjanidze. So you can follow along with what we've seen with Saba Lobjanidze, and that is where we are with our friends there with Krzysztof Piatek. So that's the latest piece of news that we have. Sorry, the latest report. Latest report involving movement with Atlanta United. So that's where we're hanging this morning with Atlanta United reports. So keep an eye. Krzysztof Piatek right now valued at $6.5 million from our friends at Transfermarkt. So center forward, and literally he'll be center forward or he'll play behind center forward. That's his history. Literally 9 or playing behind as a second striker. That's it. Hasn't played on the wings historically. So that's what you're looking at when you're going down the Krzysztof Piatek, a Krzysztof Piatek rabbit hole. When we can bring Nick in, we can sit there and go, okay, well, here are the thoughts, with Nick and Jarrett, and so we can see. We still have stuff on Odsonne Edouard to get into, and you can keep an eye on Odsonne Edouard and see what's going on with that pursuit. But right now, things have shifted to look for Krzysztof Piatek and where we are involving that pursuit. So that's the latest news. So early reports from Nick are that as a taller striker, he should be in good shape for work in Major League Soccer. So that's kind of where we are with involving Piatek and what to anticipate there involving Krzysztof Piatek. So that's kind of where we are this morning involving Atlanta United and all of that. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll see what we're staring at involving the updates and what's going on with Atlanta United. So that's where we are. All right. So other news, other things, and other stuff. Like I said, we got plenty to get into this morning, and it has to do with a lot of stuff across the board. Now, choice is yours. And it was funny. It wasn't funny, but I mean, the choices are there for the locations for all the news. So we have stuff out of San Jose, and we have stuff involving Rob Valentino. There were reports with Rob yesterday. Colin Fraser, new head coach of Toronto FC. And so we've mentioned the moves that are going on with Toronto. Brian Anunga has signed with FC Cincinnati. So you can add Todd Bryan Anunga to the ends for FC Cincinnati. But he is, let's put it this way. His play will be very, very physical, involving what we're seeing with Atlanta United. So, with FC Cincinnati. So with what we're seeing from Todd Bryan Anunga, he goes from Nashville. He was on the market briefly, ends up with Cincinnati. So we'll see what's going on there in Cincinnati involving Todd Bryan Anunga as we go forward. So also on the board, Luca Orejano once out at FC Cincinnati. So Todd Bryan Anunga in, Luca Orejano out, or once out. And so we'll see what happens with Todd Bryan Anunga this morning, with Luca Orejano. Orejano once out in Cincinnati. Also, Caleb Porter did an interview with WCVB, and we'll get into that this morning. But also, speaking of outs, since we're talking about out, you have the saga, we'll go ahead and say it's a saga, involving Sebastian Driussi and Austin. So involving Austin, it's, it was intriguing to see where apparently it is now a match race. It is now a match race to see whom, and I say whom, who or whom? Is it who or whom? Who will be getting Sebastian Driussi from Austin FC? And the question is it going to be, somebody like Estudiantes, or is it going to be somebody else like River? Because River was interested. And then with River thought they had a deal on the table that was in the neighborhood of 10 million. And then Estudiantes came in, and Estudiantes was like, well, we're really interested in making sure that, perhaps we'd be interested in Sebastian Driussi ourselves. It ends up now that there is apparently an $11.5 million deal on the table involving, hang on a second. Hang on. There's now an $11.5 million number that is on the table involving Estudiantes and Sebastian Driussi. And at training yesterday, Rodolfo Borrell came on, and he came in front of the microphones, the sporting director, and he said, literally, here's what he said, was that Driussi did not ask for permission to not be involved. He did not wander up and go, I'm just not feeling it. So I'm not feeling it this morning. I'm really not. And so as it was, Driussi, basically, he's just kind of MIA right now. And you end up with Driussi, who is not there. He's not at training camp for Austin. And for him, he's just kind of like, I'm hanging out. I'm good. I'm good. So Driussi right now at an $11.5 million price tag. He is waiting for an answer from a club, whether it's Estudiantes or whomever, what to do next. He's like, I'm not going to Austin. I'm not going to camp. I'm good. So is it Estudiantes at 11.5? Is it River in 10? That's the question right now for Sebastian Driussi and his future involving Austin. Rodolfo Borrell went in front of the microphones, and he was like, he wasn't quite this kind of flippant about it, but he said that it was not cleared with Major League Soccer. The absence was not cleared. We have told Major League Soccer what's going on. And so we have alerted Major League Soccer, And I'm guessing that you have news and notes from our friends at Austin FC. They've alerted the league. They have alerted the league, and it is, he ain't here, we ain't happy. So that is where we are with Sebastian Driussi right now. So that will be the fun part involving Driussi and his future right now, and where his future is. So it's you have the ins and outs with players. It's the beginning of training camp. I mean, you have folks that want to sit there and go, well, hey, it's training camp, and what we're going to do is we're going to test our limits a little bit. And Sebastian Driussi is testing the limits of his current front office, because he doesn't want to be any place else other than that particular front office. So that's the latest involving Sebastian Driussi. All right, so that takes out what's going on in in Austin currently. So mentioned Caleb Porter. And Caleb Porter did an interview with WCVB TV. That is the one of the network affiliates in Boston. And, it was one of those, with the ABC affiliate. And so you do your sit downs, you get everything ready for the beginning of the year, and they're getting their pieces together for CBB. And what they did is they did a sit down with Mike Vrabel. And in addition to the sit down with Mike Vrabel, they did a sit down separately with Caleb Porter and the New England Revolution. So Caleb Porter from Angel Salcedo. Angel Salcedo did a sit down involving Caleb Porter. And here's what Caleb Porter had to say in the interview. So Caleb Porter thinks that he has the right mix of players. And first and foremost, he's got the right mix of players, but how many players does he currently have? What do we say, 11? I think it's 11 players that they currently have. So that's the current thought. It's like, do we have? Here's the full transcript. So Salcedo, first full off season in New England. What's it been like? Exciting and busy. Had a lot of work to do last year. So here's Caleb Porter underselling the whole thing. And what I probably should do is I probably should have just pulled the interview, but it's a little interesting to look at it this way. He goes, last year was not a good year. So when it hit the off season, Cardinalfo and myself, we got to work immediately, but we're already strategizing prior to the year ending. So Porter's then asked about, whether or not the players that are there, and trying to figure out what it looks like there with all the folks. He says a lot of the guys from the 21 and 22 teams, Rioni's been here a long time. This is from Salcedo. Boateng, Bayraktarovic, how does his team get better replacing those guys? So Caleb Porter, when you look at last year, it would have been easy for us to say, yeah, we're on track and we need to continue with what we're doing. But no, we weren't on the right track. We needed better ingredients for the recipe that we have. Needed to improve our ability to score goals and stop goals. As simple as that sounds. When you look at Leo Campana, you look at least Luis Diaz, you look at Ignatius Ganago, they're going to bring goals. They're going to bring game-changing ability. When you look at Mamadou Fofana, you look at Brian Ceballos. We brought in guys in the center back position as well that will bring in a little bit more athleticism. Salcedo goes, when you hear the phrase coaches get hired to get fired, what's your reaction to that? Caleb says, I know it's a reality, but if I operate every day with that worry or concern or that, tension, I wouldn't be able to do my job. So I understand I have to get results. I understand that part of my job is measured on results. And if I don't get them, I'm going to be fired, but I don't think that way. We had good players here. They just didn't happen to be the right players once we got in here. They're still good players, but now we have the right players. Now this is my team. These are my players. I've picked them, and I'm confident in the blueprint that I have. So Porter right now believes that that those are the players that he needs for 24. So that's where Caleb Porter is involving his thoughts here in 24. Going to be a team that represents the fans in a much better way, not just with the results, but with the way we fight, the way we grind, how competitive we are. I understand that we lost some trust and confidence in the fans last year for sure. It was a bad year. And I own that, but I'm going to earn their respect and their confidence back one game at a time, one win at a time. So that's where Caleb Porter is coming into what's going to be an interesting idea. How do you turn things around? Legitimately, how do you turn things around? Now, we look at the roster. You look at the roster for New England. And the roster for New England, courtesy of our friends at Transfermarkt, it ain't the biggest roster in the world. It's not. It is not the largest roster currently as we know it. Actually, tell you what, let's go to Spot Track. Let's go to our friends at Spot Track. And so Spot Track is traditionally a really good breakdown of where things stand with players. Who's where, who do they have, and what's going on. All right, so we're going to go to Spot Track, and we hit the magic button. And now we wait for the word to come in as to who's doing what. So here's the senior roster. So Caleb Porter says that he's got his guys. Senior roster spots. And remember, the most recent deal involving the disposing of the fourth designated player, Giacomo Vrioni. Vrioni was let go for $50,000 in allocation money. That's it. That's it. $50,000 in allocation money. That is it. So here's the rundown. Here's the rundown of the roster currently for the New England Revolution. Brandon By, this is okay, so senior roster spots. Brandon By, Campana, Shankalai, and Carlos Heel. Those are your DPs, and they're under contract for at least 2 more years. Then you have club options, etc. Aljazevic in net. Jack Panayotu is a homegrown who's under contract for 2 more years. Matt Polster is under contract for 25. 3 in the supplemental spots. Peyton Miller, Will Sands, Santi Suarez. Does that get you to 10? You have 13 in the non-active list. So you have 23. You have 23 players currently. And if you include, and so 23 players. So you've still got room to have as many as another 7, say, to help fill out your roster. Noel Buck, Brian Ceballos, Luis Diaz, Andrew Farrell, Mamadou Fofana, who was mentioned by Caleb Porter in the piece with CBB with Angel Salcedo. Malcolm Fry, Ignatius Ganago, who's a loan through June I imagine that will be extended if things go the way that Caleb Porter wants. So you have Luca Langoni, who's a U22. So you have 2 more U22 spots, and you've got Penny Yotu, who's a homegrown, so you might have 1. Demario McIntosh, Alan Oyerwath, Donovan Parisian in net as one of your keepers, Jackson Ewell, and Al Hassan Yusuf. And so Langoni is a U22 player. So right now you've got 23 players. Senior roster spots have been picked up. So 23 players currently in New England. Most folks are sitting there and they're like, okay, it's 23, 24, what have you, and more 30. And that's where you are with what you're staring at. Morning, Tom, by the way. Good to see you. And so Tom, being the intrepid producer that he is, leads us to Fabrizio Romano and what's going on with Fabrizio Romano this morning. So what is going on with Fabrizio Romano this morning? Let's check out and see what Romano has in mind. And I know that there's a lot of stuff going on. So Chelsea in talks with Matisse Tell, Vitor Reis with Manchester City, the 18-year-old center back joining the club immediately, as revealed yesterday, not staying at Palmeiras until July. Transfer fee around €35 million plus a sell-on clause. So Vitor Reis, Manchester City. So Manchester City is, and also Manchester City submitted their official bid for Omar Marmoush. Still below the Eintracht expectations. Understand the clubs are negotiating with optimism. Fees being discussed, and the number was supposed to be in the neighborhood of 50. So keeping an eye on Marmoush. Marmoush expected to play tonight. The hopes to seal the deal this week. Ander Herrera de Boca Jr. is also with Fabrizio Romano, and here we go. Documents signed between all parties leaving Athletic Club. Boca on a 1-year deal plus an option, traveling tonight with a medical tomorrow. Kyle Walker will not be a part of the Man City squad against Brentford as expected. Not traveled with the squad, as Jack Gaughan reports. Plan is to leave the club immediately. AC Milan keeping talks active with Walker's camp ahead of the interest of Saudi clubs. So it is, in fact, a race now to determine who's getting Kyle Walker. Who is getting Kyle Walker? So that is the other element in all of this. Who is getting Kyle Walker, sir? Who is getting Kyle Walker? So that's where we are with the Kyle Walker sweepstakes this morning. I forgot to ask, Tom, what do you think about the return of David Moyes? Initially, it was supposed to be a short-term deal, thought maybe to the end of the season. Then they changed their minds and they made it for more than just the end of this year. So David Moyes returns to Everton. You, sir, what do you and your resident Evertonian friends think? Just figured I'd put it out there. So that is so Kyle Walker, Omar Marmoush, Villa have opened talks with Sevilla over Loic Barre as a concrete option and a target, exploring a January move, according to L'Equipe, high on Villa's list for both Monchi and Unai Emery. And no agreement between Fenerbahce and Aston Villa for Diego Carlos yet. Several days of negotiations. Arsenal in advanced talks with Martin Zubamendi for the summer of 2025. Negotiations underway. Player side positive. Talks took place behind the scenes, as revealed by Sammy Mokbelt, the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Arsenal plan to trigger the €60 million release clause. Noah Okafor won't be available for the next 3 to 4 weeks. That's why RB Leipzig have decided to cancel the transfer after the medical. No serious injury. RB Leipzig wanted Okafor, but couldn't proceed as being a 6-month loan move. They needed a player 100% ready. So that's where Arsenal is. Once again, Arsenal with Zubamendi. Timo Werner, according to Ange Postecoglou this morning, picked up a hamstring injury, waiting for scan results. Hansi Flick, after his injury, Ansu Fati has been able to show 100% of his 100%, and this is sad. I was convinced he would be at his best. I'm honest with my players. He needs to work like everyone else. So Hansi Flick is not happy with Ansu Fati. So there you go. So Tom is good with it. Better than Dyche for sure. Players not fancied by Dyche will get chances under David Moyes. Actually, might be able to get a tune out of some players Dyche couldn't. All right, so then let me ask you this. Let me bring this back up on the board. Sean Dyche actually said, "I've done all I can do." Do you appreciate his honesty? Or when new owners come to the table and sit there and say, it literally is like it's a new boss. New boss has you come in and sit down. New boss has you come in and sit down. And then you sit there and it's like, and the new boss asks you, well, so how do you think you'll do here at work? Do you appreciate his honesty? Do you appreciate Sean Dyche's honesty? I think I've done all I can do with this group. Or do you want the kind of guy that's going to sit there and go, yeah, I think I can do well? What kind of guy do you want as your manager? What kind of guy do you want as your manager? Do you want somebody who is going to be honest? It's like, nope. I think I got all I could out of this group. I think I got all I could. Not the players need to give more. I need to see more effort from the players. But I think I did all I could do. Tom says he thinks he saw the writing on the wall. But do you want somebody who's that brutally honest? Do you want someone who's that brutally honest out of the blocks with a new boss? Do you want him to sit there and say that specifically? Or do you want him to sit there and say, yeah, I think I can give it a shot? What kind of boss do you want in that situation? That's the larger question here. What kind of boss do you want? Apparently, Sean Dyche is like, nope, I'm good. Sean Dyche is like, nope, I am good. But now you got David Moyes for the next 2.5. I'm sorry about that. Next 2.5, you got David Moyes. So that's where we are. So Tom, once again, as one of our resident Evertonians, deserves credit for keeping us up the last 2 seasons, especially last with the deductions, but his time had run its course. And sometimes, the message gets staled out, and I just created a new word. But an approach can only be approached for so long. Either the manager has to change his approach, or you've got to bring in players that will embrace a certain change. It just seemed like Dyche's style was stale, and it wasn't getting any kind of movement out of the battle for 16, 17, 18. And Emilio, to your point, depends on if he's checked out. Maybe he was at the point of wanting to go. Hey, look, if you're there and you're looking at things and you're like, you know what, I'm kind of done. I'm done here. So you're like, maybe it's time to go. One of those kind of things. And he only has, and then the bigger issue with Dyche, literally, has only one approach. And it worked at Burnley because of the budget that he didn't have and the approach that Burnley needs to do this to survive. They need to do this to stay up. It basically is defend, and almost bore your opponent to death. It's going to be a goalless draw. It's going to be a 1-1 draw. It's going to be something in there. And if you've got folks like Wout Weghorst or, somebody like that you can take advantage of, maybe have a mistake happen and you put something in the back of the net and basically pounce when there's a mistake. But defend your ass off for 90 minutes. It's like, that's why you had guys like Ben Mee and James Tarkovsky at Burnley, and work, and they would play in other places too to help things out. But defend, and then maybe shoot. So that's what you had involving Sean Dyche and Burnley. You survived. You had that one season at Burnley where you end up, I think it was 7th, and you go into Europa Conference League, and that almost destroyed you because you didn't have the depth to be in multiple competitions. And the start that you got in that season at Burnley when they were in Europa, where they were having to fight for relegation to stay out of the relegation fight. I mean, that was like the shooting star of the Sean Dyche administration when he was at Burnley. You get into Europa, but just the multiple competitions, the start they got into in the Premier League almost cost them. And I think that might have been a lesson for Sean Dyche. It's like, maybe we can be good, but we don't have to be too good because of the depth. I've got to navigate competitions here. I mean, I know that there's no there's no conspiracy theories about, we're going to tank so we don't have to have multiple competitions and such. But look at your depth, navigate your depth, figure out what you got, and then max that out. So that's kind of where you saw things. You saw that one Burnley year where they were just amazing. And you're like, oh, maybe they could continue that. But if you don't invest, you're caught. Michael Valverde's in this morning. Small clubs definitely caught in a catch-22. Need the money, thins the depth. By the way they play, but it thins the depth chart by play way too much. Absolutely true. And that's what caught Burnley with Sean Dyche. And so Burnley, in a perfect world, I think they're at their best if they navigate the Burnleys of the world, I guess, where they can navigate. They can be 15, 16, somewhere in there. Outside of a Crystal Palace, I mean, Crystal Palace just seems, like I said, Crystal Palace to me just seems happy to be here. They can invest if they wanted to, but they don't. It's like they have X amount of dollars, and we're just happy to be here. If we finish 12th or 15th, we're here every year. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for coming by Selhurst Park. We're okay. So, but yeah, Michael, you have them all in their thought patterns. All right. So, other quick news before we get to the top of the hour, because I do want to talk about what happened in San Jose. I do want to talk about what's up with Rob Valentino. I do want to talk about the internal MLS trade system. We've got to get into that. And the Premier League financial rules. What I may do, since we are talking Premier League financial rules, I think probably that's where I'm going to go, just to continue to stick with news really quickly. So, Roger, okay, so news and notes, and we'll stick with the Premier League before we go back into Major League Soccer. Talk about the new internal financial mechanism, and also discuss what's going on in San Jose, because there's some stuff in San Jose to get into. We've got the reports with Rob Valentino and the Canadian soccer scene. We'll talk about that with Nico Moreno on Thursday. We'll get into that too with him. So, okay, so here's the deal. Roger Martinez has signed with Al Tawon. Schalke confirmed Lois Karius is signed on a free until the end of the year. That's from our buddy Ben Jacobs. Leon Flock, according to Plettenberg, Leon Flock is going to join Jagiellonia Białystok. Polish champs still competing in the Conference League, currently third in the league. Deal is done, sealed for the central defender, so a central midfielder. So Leon Flock out at Philly. Now he's at Jagiellonia Białystok in the Polish league. Everton's keeper João Virginia exploring options as his contract is set to expire in the summer. Liverpool has not been an active suitor for Martin Zubimendi in the window, despite almost agreeing to a move last summer. Arsenal are in advanced talks to sign Zubimendi from Real Sociedad this summer, once again, Sami Mokbel. Understand Chelsea value Christopher Nkunku at £60 million if they are to entertain a sale. Bayern, according to Ben Jacobs, if their interest is strong, Nkunku is open to the move. Manchester City and Palmeiras really close to finalizing the deal for Vitor Reis. Manchester City intend to sign him now, even though Palmeiras has pushed for Reis to stay until after the Club World Cup. Nothing formalized, but that's expected to change quickly. So that's where we are with updates before we get anything up to date from gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Yeah, cap is bad. Yeah. Crystal Palace, Michael says about providing Central London some entertainment. Yes, cheerleaders do that. Okay. So the the notes from the Premier League. So here's what we saw involving the Premier League and PSR. So we knew that this was coming down today. So here's what's going on. Martin Ziegler, once again at the Times. You see Martin Ziegler's name on the board, and is it something that you really want to have? The answer really is no. So, no clubs were charged with PSR breaches, but Jason Nix, I know your ears are burning. Leicester City is still at risk. All top flight teams were declared compliant for the 23-24 year, but Leicester remain in a legal dispute with the Premier League over spending during 22-23. Remember, that was the hybrid year where Leicester wants to say that we're not bound by Premier League rules because we weren't in the Premier League at the time. So the Premier League hasn't charged any clubs for breaches of PSR last season. However, Leicester remain at risk pending the outcome of the ongoing legal case. The club is still involved in a legal dispute with the league over the jurisdiction relating to the 22-23 season, and that has to reach a conclusion before any new charges can be brought. So basically, here's what's going on. So basically, the the Premier League and Leicester City, here's the deal with them. You know, we got to get this court case solved first before you can come after us on the second one. So Leicester's like, yes, sit on that, Potsy. Club's still involved in that legal dispute. So Leicester won the initial case in December, but the league appealed. The league appealed this. All other top flight clubs have been declared to be compliant. And I know those of you who are staring at Manchester City are going, after submitting their 23-24 accounts before the deadline of the end of the calendar year. Premier League said in a statement, issues as to the jurisdiction of the Premier League over Leicester City Football Club in relation to PSR, profit and sustainability rules, compliance, are currently the subject of confidential arbitration proceedings. Accordingly, neither the league nor the club will make any further comment at this stage about any aspect of the club's compliance or otherwise with any of the PSR or related rules, save to say that no complaint has been brought against Leicester by the league for any breach of the PSRs for the period ending season 23-24. So the league and Leicester, they're still back at 22-23. They've still got the appeal. They've still got all that stuff going on. So that's where Leicester currently is. In September, remember, Leicester won a legal challenge on the basis that the Premier League did not have jurisdiction after they'd been relegated in 23. Club said that they had identified, quote, flaws in the Premier League rules. We've identified flaws. Clubs can be charged by the Premier League, and this is the recap of the rule. Clubs can be charged by the Premier League for breaching PSR of limit of £105 million in losses over 3 years. Everton and Nottingham Forest both had points deductions imposed last season. Full disclosure, I thought that that's where the Premier League was going to go again and chase after Everton and Nottingham Forest. I still think the Premier League is going to keep an eye on those two. No basis in fact, no basis in anything like that. But I still think that they're going to chase. I still think they're going to keep an eye on Everton and Nottingham Forest. I still think they're really going to keep an eye on Nottingham Forest. I really do. With Evangelinus Marinakis and his spending habits, to me, and before I dive back into the rest of the Ziegler piece, to me, this seems a lot like SMU and all the years of the Pony Express. You got too good too fast. So I'm going to keep an eye on you. This to me, literally Nottingham Forest to me, is like SMU and the NCAA. And if you haven't seen the 30 for 30 on SMU Pony XS, it is mandatory viewing. But the best comparison I can think of with Nottingham Forest being where they are right now in the standings, Nottingham Forest being right where they are in the standings right now, it's almost like SMU and the NCAA. Hey, you got too good too fast. Something's up here. Something's up with you. You obviously you can't be doing it right. So the Premier League standings, by the way, just to kind of lay things out. So right now in the Premier League, Liverpool 6 points clear, match in hand. But you go Arsenal, and you're like, okay, Arsenal, that one I expected. Number 2, goal difference, they're ahead of their competition. Who's third? Nottingham Forest. Not denying what Nuno Espirito Santo has done. Yeah, and Forest always signs like 20. Yeah, and Alex says, remember, Forest signed 20 new players. Yeah, their turnover is ridiculous. It's like, yeah, we'll sign this guy. Well, and Steve Cooper, when they started this with Evangelinus Marinakis, dropped a boatload of money, and that's what they've done. What Marinakis has done from the absolute beginning, since they came into the Premier League, he has dropped an ish ton of money. He's bringing in players right and left. I mean, they brought in Keylor Navas on a loan from PSG. So right now, they've been dropping all this money. Marinakis, the churn has been unreal. Absolutely, they thought everybody thought they're nuts. Well, Evangelinus Marinakis is nuts at times. Allegedly spitting at officials where he's like, no, I smoke cigars and cigarettes and I have a nasty cough. Challenging officials in the tunnel. But Nottingham Forest right now is third in the Premier League. All right, so now that so Nottingham Forest, I need to check and see how many players have played in each of the last handful of seasons. How many have played in the last handful of years? Like I said, I'm now genuinely curious. Now that we've gone down this road, I need to find out how many players have actually played. So Marinakis bought the team in 2017. 2021, Steve Cooper gets them into higher work in the EFL. So October 22, Cooper's in. Then they come up. Sack Cooper December 19 of 23. Replaced by Nuno. January 15, 24, charged with breaching PSR for 2023. That's where we are. We're back that far. Docked 4 points. Appeal was then rejected. All right, so where's my rosters? So managers, and they're going all the way back. And like I said, I'm consulting with our friends at the Wikipedia here. So, all right. How many players played in the 24 season, and how many players? See, this is something I'm going to have. All right, so I got to write this down. So for tomorrow, I've got to write down roster players, numbers, Forest since Marinakis. Evangelinas Marinakis. Okay, so I wrote it down. All right, so that trivia question is going to get figured out. Morning, Harry. That trivia question is going to get figured out. Just on premise, I've got to figure out what the churn and burn has been since basically they've been back up. And Alex mentioned the fact that they spent like an ish ton of money. So anyway, number of top flight clubs, continuing Ziegler. Number of top flight clubs who might have been at risk of breaching the limit involved in a series of interlocking transfers before June 30, which enabled them to bank profits. For example, Chelsea signed Amari Kellyman for £19 million from Villa, despite only making 2 Premier League appearances, with Chelsea's academy product, Ian Matson, going the other way for twice that. Chelsea also sold the women's team to a club parent company. Remember, we talked about the hotel that they decided to treat as an asset, and they wanted to sell it to a holding company, all those kinds of things involving Chelsea. Sold the women's team to the club's parent company on June 28, 2 days before the end of the financial year, for an undisclosed sum. In the case involving dispute over jurisdiction, Leicester charged by the Premier League with breaching PSR by $24.4 million for the years up to 22-23 and made losses for the last 2 years of $182.5. Spending on infrastructure, youth and women's football can be deducted from any losses, but Kieran O'Connor, who writes for Swiss Ramble, estimated the club would be over the limit for 23-24 by around £12 million. The £35 million PSR loss limit reduced by 22 to 13 million for each year a club is in the EFL, but it has been pointed out this week the Premier League rules for that only appear to apply for the first 2 years of the 3-year period, so that Leicester and other clubs and newly promoted clubs from the Championship could claim losses of 35 million for last year, but the legal case between the league and the club needs to be resolved before any new PSR calculations are pursued. Take a breath. Paragraph. Meanwhile, this is why I was wondering about our resident Evertonians. A separate case involving Everton relating to the 22-23 accounts and £6.5 million the club claims were, quote, related to interest payments which were directly attributable to the club's new stadium remains ongoing. Disciplinary Commission, which deducted Everton 2 points last April, decided to deal with that issue in a separate hearing, which is yet to be concluded more than 9 months later. So, Everton still has stuff hanging in the balance. Nottingham Forest has stuff hanging in the balance, I guess. So, that's where we are. Articles dating all the way back to March involving Ziegler. Like I said, do not have Martin Ziegler as a byline attached to your club. Do not. Revs have signed free agent defender Wyatt Omsberg, who we know from Chicago Fire 2 and Chicago Fire. And the veteran center back joins ahead of the 25 season. So now you have 24 players. So now you've got 24 players on your roster. Gradually getting there. Caleb Porter. Yeah, we got the guys we need. We got the guys I'm looking for. These are my guys. 1-year contract through the 25-year with a 1-year option. Lou City in USL Championship has re-signed Brian Ownby for the 25 season. Kiev. So that's where we are involving Leicester. So the financial rules right now. Morning, Unc. So right now, financial rules are all pretty good. Except if you're Leicester, maybe if you're Everton, and the collective people's eyebrow at the Premier League office is kind of staring at Nottingham Forest. So like I said, I wrote down for tomorrow, just out of my own edification, the number of roster players, considering that Alex brought it up in the chat. The amount of money that has been spent on transfers by Evangelinas Marinakis and Nottingham Forest from the moment that they've been brought up. Third right now in the Premier League. Third. behind Arsenal on goal difference. Are they too good too fast? Like I said, this to me reminds me of SMU and the Pony Express. Starting to recruit outside the state of Texas. You're getting folks from Pennsylvania. You're getting folks from all around the country. And you're coming to Dallas-Fort Worth. Are they too good too fast in the eyes of the Premier League? So we'll keep an eye on that. Okay. With what's going on in and around Major League Soccer. All right. Yesterday, it was announced officially that Joseph Martinez is going to San Jose. Joseph and San Jose. That happened yesterday. So now what you have is Joseph Martinez in the Western Conference. And you also have here's the roster currently. Remember how we went through the New England roster and we showed you what's going on with them. Right now, this is Bruce Arena and what you're staring at involving San Jose. Here's San Jose's roster for you right now as they start training camp. Chicho Arango. He's a DP for 25 with an option for 26. Buda Costa Gruezo is a DP, once again guaranteed for 25, option for 26. Ian Harks, who was brought in as a part of one of 4 players from the Revs. Mark Anthony Kay, one of 4 players who was brought in from the relationship with the Revs. Benji Kikanovich, Hernan Lopez, who's a DP, 2 guaranteed years, club option for 2 more. Paul Marie, Amal Pellegrino, Oliveira, Romney, Jack Scahan, Bruno Wilson, and Daniel Brito. 15. 6 supplementals. Bigansky, Earl Edwards Jr., both keepers, and Emi Ochoa, and there's news there we got to talk about. So right now you've got 4. You've got 4 keepers. Daniel Mooney, Jamar Ricketts, Nico Sakiris, who's a homegrown. And then 10 that have been added. Tanner Beeson, Chance Cowell, Espinoza, Floriani, Jacob Jackson, 5 keepers. Nick Lima, Cruz Medina, Edwin Mendoza, and Oscar Verhoeven. So you've got to work on your DPs unless you're going to go with a 2. But you're getting 16, 31. So Joseph Martinez to San Jose. So Joseph Chicho Arango, part of the attack for San Jose. There is no doubt in my mind that at least early on in the year, it is going to be must watch. I mean, MLS After Dark, I think we're going to gravitate towards San Jose. I think we're going to. So it's going to take a while for Arango and Joseph and the rest of the attack to figure out. I mean, obviously that's what training camp is for, but it's going to take a little while to integrate and try to figure out, okay, who goes where, who fits, who does what, where do I want the ball, those kinds of things. But the problem is there's only one soccer ball to go around. There's only one soccer ball to go around. And I think that as we go, it will be interesting to me to see how the level of cooperation is involving specifically Chicho Arango and Joseph Martinez. Because, and I mean, as any good striker is, you want the ball. Winners always do, Danny. Shane Falco, all winners want the ball. But how long is it going to be, as I sit here and try to get comfortable, which is impossible? How long is the harmony going to be in an environment where you have folks who always want to be the one to score? Because you know that Chicho Arango is going to want to be the alpha. I think it's safe to say that Joseph is going to want to be the alpha in San Jose. How long is their harmony? And will each sit there and have the moments of, okay, I want the other to score? And how much ish, for lack of a better word, is Bruce Arena going to put up with? I think the answer to that is very little. I think that that's going to be very little. So, like I said, I think the palace intrigue, the scoring soap opera, like I said, I think it will be a fun watch for those of us from the outside. How much will Bruce Arena put up with? I think the answer is very little. I mean, from anybody, not just, the two scorers up top. But when it comes to scoring, when it comes to the alpha, when it comes to the A2, when it comes to who's going to be the beta, who's the alpha, who's the beta, that's what I think we're staring at here. And how much ish will Bruce Arena put up with? I think the answer is none. Because if you're giving Bruce Arena grief, then you ain't playing. And the fact that also, and this isn't just looking at, let's look at the last couple of years. Chicho Arango, 19 to 21, he's at Millonarios. 53 appearances, 21 goals. Then he goes to LAFC. LAFC, 51 appearances, 30 goals. Goes to Pachuca, 11 matches, 5 goals. Goes to RSL, 41 matches, basically a season. Scores 23 goals, and now he's in San Jose. So then it's LAFC, Pachuca, RSL. 3 teams in 3 years for Chicho Arango. And remember also that Chicho Arango, I want to get the terms right here. So remember that Chicho Arango did not play for 4 matches in July of 24. Suspended for 4 matches for violating the MLS anti-harassment policy. Suspension affected his performance and impacted RSL season. July 17, July 20, All-Star game, first Leagues Cup match. So, suspended 4 games by Major League Soccer on July 15th to 24. Neither Major League Soccer nor RSL divulged what led to the disciplinary action. At the time, led MLS with 17 goals, which tied the RSL single-season record set by Saborio in 2012. Would miss the match with LAFC, the Rapids, MLS All-Star game, and the matchup against Atlas. Second on the club with assists at the time, but also after he came back from suspension, I think it was safe to say that his play was impacted, as was RSL's. And then RSL also made some moves which impacted Arango and his effectiveness offensively. So with Chicho Arango, you have 3 clubs in 3 years. Now with Joseph going to his time after Atlanta, when Atlanta played 23 with Messi and friends, 27 appearances, 7 goals, goes to Montreal, 23 appearances, 11 goals. So Joseph is also in his 3rd team in 3 years. So I'm putting this out there for just public thought. In a Bruce Arena environment, how much ish is Bruce Arena going to put up with? And you have 2 very headstrong individuals who are alphas, without question. How much will Bruce Arena put up with? I don't think he'll put up with a lot. He may go and play the kids. Jackson Ewell may end up, getting a lot more reps. But I will be intrigued, literally. San Jose, for me, will be late night viewing. I will be intrigued to see what goes on with San Jose. How do Chicho Arango and Joseph Martinez interact? Is one trying to be the alpha? Is one, is the other trying to be the alpha? 2 dudes trying to be alphas. Does one end up being a beta? So, like I said, that's what I will be. That's what I will be looking at in this new administration in San Jose when it comes to all of the talent that's on display. Rob Valentino, there were some stories involving Rob Valentino yesterday. And like I said, I do want to get into the internal trade mechanism thing. That's going to take a little bit. So let me get through the player news and we'll get into the news and everything. So news about Rob Valentino. Hang on just a second. This is what happens with posture with this current health situation here. Hang on. Okay. So it was reported yesterday that Rob Valentino was active in the interview process involving both the Canadian women's national team and with the Vancouver Whitecaps. So you had that happen as he was interviewed for the Canadian women's national team job. That eventually went to Casey Stoney. Also interviewed with Vancouver for the Whitecaps opening. The Whitecaps are having a 12:30 Eastern press conference involving their new hire. So it's hang on just a second. Let me get into the news. Vancouver in the overnight. Anyone in the mood for a Danish? So with everybody heading back to camp, it is being reported that it's going to be Jesper Sorensen as the club's new manager. Previously led Brøndby from 23 to 24. So Jesper Sorensen is coming from Brøndby to be the new head coach in Vancouver. Glass City FC and Manuel Beth were the 2 that were the ones that first released that news yesterday. So now you have everybody that's got coaches, everybody with coaches. So now Rob Valentino is still in the active marketplace, but interviewed for the Canadian women's national team gig. Before that went to Casey Stoney, and for the Vancouver Whitecaps gig, which at 12:30 Eastern time is supposedly going to be unveiling Jesper Sorensen as the new manager in Vancouver. So everyone, as they head into camp, is officially going to have managers, and they're going to be all laid out and ready to go. So that's where we are with everyone heading into camp. And obviously we'll have camp reports, and we'll keep an eye on things when it comes to all of the MLS teams as they go in. But It was announced or reported, let's say reported, because Tom Bogert and our friends at Gimme Sports, you end up with what we've been discussing for a while, the internal trade mechanism, which really should have been done probably a long time ago. It really should have been done a long time ago, but that's just me. RSL apparently, according to Tom, is finalizing a deal to sign Australian forward Arya Peel from MacArthur. We should have Bam let us know about that. Peel, 3+1 and 416 league minutes in the top flight this year. So, all right, so Major League Soccer, and this is one of the new things that they've done. MLS has brought this online. Officially passed a new cash-based internal trade system, which will go into effect immediately, according to Bogert. The league is calling it a cash for player trades, according to his sources. Allows teams to spend transfer fees on players within MLS for the first time. And honestly, this should, like I said, this should have been a long time ago, at least in my mind. You should have been able to sit there and instead of using any kind of a Garber buck, that if you wanted to pay, literally, if you wanted to pay $9 gazillion for a player, and you go up to Team X and go, well, you know what? I want to pay $9 gazillion for that guy. The team, until apparently yesterday, would be like, nah, we got to do this through AM. But now, cash for player trades exists in Major League Soccer. Allows teams to spend fees on players within MLS for the first time. Previously, teams could only trade allocation money, players, or other MLS-specific assets to acquire players. Clubs will be allowed to acquire up to 2 and trade away up to 2 per year for cash. Unk wonders how the players feel about the internal trade mechanism. I'm going to hold this up here and we'll get into it. Let me run through the details and we'll get into this. Teams can still use GAM and other assets to acquire players as well. So the cash for player trades, teams can still use GAM and other assets to acquire players. The amount of cash traded must be disclosed in the release announcing the trade. Okay, so that's another piece toward transparency. And that is also something that should be more in the public purview. Yes, MLS players twice a year will let us know how much the salary figures are. But, right now, you have only reports of when you're dealing with player transactions around the planet, you have, it's reported to be somewhere in the 18 to 20 range. Now with the cash for players, it has to be in the release. Also, players who are either DPs or U22s must remain so at their new clubs for the duration of the current contract. So basically actually tell me, let me go through the whole thing and then we'll go back over. Sources across the league now look directly at Evander and Lucho Acosta as players likely to be subject to new cash trade offers. The league has to work with MLSPA to implement the new rules. That approval has been reached. The new rule will be announced soon. An internal cash trade or transfer market has long been discussed by various committees and has come close in previous years, with many sources around the league having expected it to be implemented. Had to be voted on by the Sporting and Competition Committee, previously known as the Product Strategy Committee, according to Bogert. Before it got there, it had to be recommended by the Sporting Committee. And Bogert is recommending the Tenorio piece, describing the ins and outs of the committees last year. Tenorio reported members of the Sporting and Competition Committee included Clark Hunt, Merritt Paulson, Greg Kerfoot, Adrian Hanauer, Larry Berg, and more. Most of the chief soccer officers, meaning the sporting directors, breached by GMS expressed support for the potential introduction of an internal cash trade market. So, okay, so let's go back. And a lot of this makes sense when you look at it. It's interesting that right now, the ceiling is only 2 in and 2 out. So you can do cash for players, but it's only 2 in and 2 out. That to me, I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, I get it. I mean, you don't want the thing to go completely and totally out of control. But, so it's 2 in and 2 out. You can sit there and chase after 2 dudes, and you can let 2 dudes go. So, okay, that's in there. So then what you do is, if it is a DP or a U22 that is involved in the cash for player trade, they have to stay a DP or a U22. I get that. That makes sense. That's fine. You can't sit there and say, well, I'm trading for a DP, but I'd like to turn him into a high TAM when the deal is made. You can't do that. So as much as if you had that kind of salary level negotiating, you could do that. But no, you have to say, if you're trading a DP, if you're cashing for a DP or a U22, he's got to stay a DP or a U22. Okay, I get it. Okay, fine. I'm sure that may change, down the line if the teams sit there and go, well, I want this to change. So once again, you got to work with the MLSPA to work with the new rules discussed for a long time. Interesting when you look at the Sporting and Competition Committee because of the mix of the owners that is there. Clark Hunt, who we've discussed in FC Dallas, specifically with Nico about the implementation of their roster, getting players to a certain level and then moving them on instead of hanging on to them. What does that tell you about FC Dallas and how they're looking at players? So Merritt Paulson, not afraid to spend money. Greg Kerfoot, selling Vancouver. And you got to tip your hat to Kerfoot and the Whitecaps administration for buying Vancouver, bringing them on, and investing a lot to get them to where they are. Now the next step. Now that they're up for sale, what happens? Adrian Hanauer, Seattle, Larry Berg, LAFC. So you've got owners in larger markets, not afraid to invest any money. So Unk wonders how the players feel about the internal trade mechanism. So I would think that let's play this out. So if you are player X, say, and let's use the examples that are given by Bogert of Evander and Lucho Acosta, just as an example. So if Evander or Lucho Acosta is a part of the trade deals, let's go to the MLS website, or the MLS players website, and let's look at their salary figure. So let's go to the MLS players' salaries and go to the salary guide. So Evander and Lucho Acosta, these will be the 2 players that we look at. So 2024 player salaries. Let's look at Evander. Evander, 2.355. Base salary, $1,930,000. Guaranteed compensation, 2.355. Okay. So that is Evander's salary as of the last reporting. Lucho Acosta, base 2.96, guaranteed compensation $4,216,413. Okay. So, with those two numbers that are on the board, if I was a club that was interested in either Evander or Lucho Acosta, would this be a situation, where the team in question that is interested in the cash for player trade, I would imagine, might be willing to, and this is what the player obviously that is being dealt would be looking for. I would imagine that the player, if he's going from team A to team B, hey, we need to rework my deal. So I would imagine, Unc, that you would have players that would be cool with this, because as a part of all of this machination, I would imagine that it is something where the player that is being dealt in the cash for player trade would be eyeing an increase in salary. And, hey, what's in it for me? And then that goes with the player and the team. The team itself, the team in possession of said player, say in this case Portland or Cincinnati, might be just, it's like, look, because we know how frustrated Lucho Acosta is. We know how at times Evander is frustrated with what's going on in Portland. They might be willing to look for that new address. So as a part of all of this, okay, cash for trade, Team A is looking forward to it, and we'll send the highfalutin player on, if it's a highfalutin player. I would anticipate that most of these deals you would have the player that is the cash for player trade looking for something in a newer contract, something like that. Because DP's got to stay a DP. U22's got to stay a U22. They can't build down, right? Yeah. I mean, it might not always be the case. True. I'm just anticipating teams. I think that teams with frustrated situations with players, if a team is frustrated with a player and a player is frustrated with a team, the cash for player trade would probably work well. So I'm thinking that at least, and it might not always be the case, but I think that teams would be willing to get rid of frustrated players, look at their financial bottom lines. And I think, and so as we analyze this, if we were to look at all the different aspects of something like this, the cash for player trade, we have to be open to the notion that a team might be looking to do something strictly financial. We can't handle this salary anymore. We know that this salary for player X is going to get out of control. So we got to keep an eye on this. We got to keep an eye on our own bottom line. Which teams, and this is the other part of all of this, what teams are looking at the cash for player trade mechanism as a way to help their bottom lines, to keep things from getting quote unquote out of control financially when it comes to their own navigation of their own budgets. What will be interesting to me in this is how the cash for player trade is used, which teams use it, which teams take advantage of it. Will we see teams that are at the bottom of the scale of salary caps, will we see them taking advantage of the system? And it's in the sense of, in the sense of taking advantage of this as a salary mechanism. All right, so let's look at, so I think this goes back to our friends at Spot Track, now that we're going down this road. I want to look at Major League Soccer. No, it's giving me Remax. No, that is not what I want. No, Spotted MLS. That is specifically not what I wrote. Literally on the tablet, I said Spot Track MLS, and it corrected it. No, it gives me Spotted. And I'm like, no, that is not what I want. Literally. I know what I'm typing. How many times when you're typing something, how many times does it autocorrect? Does your device autocorrect you when you know what you're typing to begin with? Legitimately. How many times do you type something and do you end up with how many times do you sit there and you look at it and you're going, no, that's not what I typed. Okay. So team salary tracker in 24. So now that we're going down this road. All right. So the teams at the bottom. Teams at the bottom of, and this is through total allocations. This is total allocations in Major League Soccer. And what we'll do is, since there's 29 teams, let's do the bottom half or the bottom 10. Let's go to the bottom 10 and look at these teams, how much money they have in their allocations, and would they use it perhaps as something to keep an eye on when it comes to salary mechanisms. Let's keep an eye on. Okay, so last season, Montreal, just over $12 million. San Jose, just under 15, 14.8, 14.9, basically. Philadelphia, just under 16 million. St. Louis, just over 16 million. Portland at 16 and a quarter. NYC at 16 and a half. RSL at 16.6. Seattle at 16, literally they spent $10,000 more in salary than RSL. Purple Team just over 17, Sporting at 17.2, Colorado at 17,256. So that's 3, 6, 9, 11. Okay, that's your bottom 11 right there. So of Montreal, San Jose, with San Jose spending money right now because Bruce Arena's in the door. Montreal, Philly, all caps, Portland, NYC, RSL, Seattle, Purple Team. 3, 6, 9, 10. Sporting, Colorado. Let's go there. So of those, do we keep an eye on these teams specifically to see if they're the ones that use the cash for player trades and they do the outbound too? Do they use it as a salary mechanism to help their own bottom line? Or do they use it as a mechanism to help perhaps moving young talent on to bring in experienced talent, those kinds of things? But you've got to have the U22 slots and you've got to have the the DPs if that's what you're dealing. You know, the player for player, just keep an eye on player status. I'm going to keep an eye on Montreal, Philly, all caps, Portland, NYC, RSL, Seattle, Purple Team, Sporting, and Colorado. How do they use the player mechanism, cash for player? How do they use it? Do they use it? Do they stand pat? And how do they implement it? Because if you go to the top 10, Miami, 42 million, you know they'd use it. Toronto, they probably would. Chicago, keep an eye on Chicago. Would Chicago not use it as much? Cincinnati, don't know. LAFC, Nashville, by the way, was number 6 in total allocations last year in Major League Soccer. LAG, Houston, Austin, and Atlanta. Of those top 10, Atlanta will. If they have the opportunity to, they will. But once again, if you're trading DPs and U22s, you've got to have those spots available, or you just got to be comfortable enough in the swap. Austin, intrigued. Houston, new owners, Ted Siegel, intrigued. LAG, you know that they will if they have the chance. Nashville. Don't know. We have our buddy Lucas Panzica in to discuss things early in training camp for Nashville. We'll ask. LAFC, you know they will, because they'll navigate and massage the cap all they want. Cincinnati, I'm intrigued. Because once again, Lucho Acosta is one of the names that folks are looking at. Chicago, I think Chicago would spend less, given the opportunity. Because once again, they had Xherdan Shaqiri on the books. I think that number 3 for 24, I think that's going to be a smaller number in 25. I think it is. So of those 10 teams, I think that Chicago will be one that spends less. They won't be in the top 10 next year just because, once again, you jettison Xherdan Shaqiri. So I'm interested in the top 10 and how they implement it. I'm interested in the bottom 10 and how they implement it. The middle, to me, will be a case-by-case basis. But once again, cash for players, maximum 2 out, 2 in. You've got to keep a DP. You've got to keep a U22. But if you really like a player, I don't think that I will be intrigued to see the U22. I mean the DPs. Who's really frustrated with a DP to the point that they want to get rid of that DP? Who's the first one to jump on that idea of, I've got to get rid of this guy? And still try and get money for that individual out of the blocks coming back the other way. I said, I'm intrigued by this. I am. To me, I think it's something that should have happened a while ago. But now that it is, I'm keeping an eye on the top and the bottom. Keeping an eye on the top and the bottom to see what the top and the bottom look like when it comes to the salary numbers. And who's going to use the 2+2? 2 in, 2 out. Who uses it and where does it go? Other transfer news of the morning, by the way. The Revs have bid to Maccabi Haifa for Israel international right back Eli Feingold, according to our friends at Blazing Musket. Bid in the region of $2 million, nothing agreed or imminent, and he would be a U22. Already has more than 40 first-team apps at the age of 20. So that is also on the board this morning. Okay, so what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. All right, so let's get into that. Once again, with our friends at BBC. This is where we get. This is where they're really good at the idea of putting it all in one place. At least that for starters. Before we dive into the papers and take a peek at what's there. All right. Manchester United are said to value winger Alejandro Garnacho at about £42 million amid interest from Napoli. Bayern Munich have joined Chelsea in the race for Kobe Mainoo over at Manchester United. Keep an eye out for a new 3D from Drew Dickinson. Also, there's going to be a new Soccer for US POD coming out, episode CVII 107. Bart and the crew got together, and so that'll be up later this morning as well. We talked about Kyle Walker in Manchester City, allowing him to depart for free this month amid interest from AC Milan and Inter Milan. AC Milan will make a formal approach for Marcus Rashford, set to leave Old Trafford this month. Dortmund have also reportedly met with Rashford's reps. This is from Florian Plettenberg at Sky Germany, in the hopes of striking a January deal. Villa have agreed £19 million to sign Daniel Malen from Borussia Dortmund. Villa have opened discussions with Sevilla as they look to sign Loic Bade. That's from L'Equipe. Newcastle's Martin Dubravka, and this is what Alex has been kind of keeping an eye on. Dubravka is in negotiations over a pay raise to see out the final 5 months of his deal. So Newcastle is not letting him go to Al-Shabaab yet. It's like, we'll give you a pay raise for the last 5 months of your deal. Then maybe you can go. Leicester, we mentioned, set to sign French fullback Wayo Koulibaly from Parma for £3 million. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea will allow Carney Chukwuemeka to leave on loan this month, with Borussia Dortmund and Strasbourg interested. Once again, that comes from Fabrizio Romano. Nottingham Forest open to offers for striker Emmanuel Dennis, interest from the Championship, Serie A, and La Liga. We mentioned Renato Vega, looking likely to leave Chelsea in January. A lot of different countries are interested. England, Germany, France, and Italy. Monaco have made a second proposal to West Ham for Edson Alvarez after their initial loan offer for the midfielder was rejected, 4-letter paper. Tyrell Malacia could leave Manchester United on a loan deal this month, according to Fabrizio Romano. West Ham poised to inquire about Dominic Calvert-Lewin before possibly making a move for the striker. Leicester open to selling Wout Weiss at the end of the season to ensure they meet PSR. Real Madrid looking at a possible managerial option to replace Carlo Ancelotti. You lose 5-2 and all hell breaks loose. You lose 5-2, everybody starts freaking out. You lose 5-2 to Barcelona in the Spanish Supercopa. Relevo is reporting that apparently Real Madrid are looking at possible managerial options. Lower division stuff. Luton looks like I think they signed Matt Bloomfield to be their new manager. Norwich has joined the chase for a striker out of contract at the end of the year. The Joe Gelhardt situation, Hull City looks like they're really close. Joe Gelhardt is also wanted by Wrexham. Keep an eye on that. Let's see. Patrick Bamford's on a long list of players Rovers are looking at as a potential signing. And you have Middlesbrough renewing their interest in Hull City. Left back Ryan Giles want to sign him in January. So that is your gossip, rumor, and innuendo from around the planet as to what's going on. Let me see if I've missed anything. Oh, yeah, I'm going to get into that. There's player introductions that apparently were not like real. We'll get into that. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Yesterday, Millwall, in their chase in the FA Cup, had to battle for a while with Dagenham and Redbridge, but they finally did survive and move on. Blank you on Millwall, so they moved on. Tuesday, once again, remember, and we got to go into juice boxes, that you've got Premier League activity. Chelsea and Bournemouth's at 2:30, and that's on USA. Fox Deportes French Cup is at 3, Marseille and Lille. Goal TV, this is where our buddy Nino Torres jumps on the play-by-play. Dutch Cup, doubleheader, Goal TV. AZ Alkmaar and Ajax is at 12:45. PSV and Excelsior is at 3. Universo has Chelsea and Bournemouth at 2:30. Bundesliga, a couple of matches on the plus. One at 12:20. Triple header at 2:20. FA Cup is still going on, by the way. 3 matchups at 2:40. Leyton Orient, Derby County, Mansfield Town, Wigan, and Preston North End, Charlton Athletic. Fox Soccer Plus has the French Cup at 2:45. Reims and Monaco. Golasso Network has Cardiff and Watford from the Championship. NBCSports.com has Chelsea and Bournemouth at 2:30. Cardiff and Watford's on Paramount Plus. Serie A doubleheader on Paramount Plus. Como, Milan at 12:30. Atalanta and Juve at 2:45. Brentford, Manchester City. West Ham, Fulham. Nottingham Forest, Liverpool. That's a big matchup. That's at 3 o'clock. So juice boxes involving those matchups. Juice boxes with those matchups, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. And it's going to take us to places that we didn't necessarily want to start with when it comes to all of our juice boxes to begin with. But Premier League activity today, once again, because of the FA Cup, that's why, and check your fantasy teams, by the way. So that is why everything is pushed into the midweek. The 4 matchups today: Brentford hosting Manchester City. Brentford getting bounced out of the FA Cup by Plymouth Argyle on the weekend. now are a plus 380 at home against Manchester City. Manchester City is a minus 161. Also at 2:30, Chelsea hosting Bournemouth at a minus 208. Bournemouth is a plus 482 in the composite. Draws a plus 380. West Ham and Fulham is at 2:30. West Ham is a plus 202. Fulham on the road is a plus 136. Your draw is a plus 242. 3 o'clock, Nottingham Forest at the City Ground is a plus 416, hosting Liverpool, who's a minus 159. And your draw is a plus 305. And once again, check your fantasy teams, check your fantasy teams, check your fantasy teams when it comes to all that activity. Did you see? And this just came across as just weird. All right, so Hamas signs with Leon. Everybody's like, man, that's really cool. And so to use his, to announce his arrival at Leon produced a very, very slick video, 3 minutes and 44 seconds. A 3-minute and 44-second video of Decimus X. Basically, they tried to turn it into like this gladiator thing. And it's to announce Hamas, and it's this, like I said, literally, this is straight out of Gladiator. Apparently, Leon used an AI James Rodriguez to announce that Hamas was a part of Leon. And this is probably going to end up being like the beginning of just this is the first time that this has happened, but it won't be the last. But Leon breaks out an AI version of Hamas to announce in a gladiator style movie trailer that Hamas is now a part of Leon. So, okay. I don't know what the actual response to the whole thing is by the fans, but the thing got 3.8 million views as of right now. 3.8 million views for something that was released yesterday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So an AI James Rodriguez was announced to announce Hamas. Like I said, probably not going to be the last time that something like this gets done, but it was certainly the first time that something like this was done to announce a Hamas. Oliver Glasner, once again, just rolling through all the news before we take our adieu. Then just to lay it all out for you, here's the week. Tomorrow it is the Atlanta United Report and Universal Information Exchange Program. Tyler Pilgrim joining us at 9:15 from Scarves and Spikes. And we'll go through the Christoph Piatek news reports and anything else that's gone on. Edward Piatek and all of the other, and Latte La. No updates. We will do a Latte La and an Otson Edward update before we get out of here. We'll try and see if there's anything on the media that is social with that. So we will check all of that. So what is Fabrizio Romano? What's Fabrizio Romano saying now, Tom? So more news from Fabrizio Romano. PSG have already planned for Kvichka Kvaratskhelia medical this week. PSG director Luis Campos closed the deal verbally Monday. PSG and Napoli presidents Nasser Al-Khelaïfi and Aurelio De Laurentiis sealed it today. Napoli stepping up efforts for a replacement. So Kvaratskhelia to PSG, here we go. Transfer fee in excess of 70 million euro per RMC Sport. 5-year contract for Kvaratskhelia at PSG. So morning forecast. Oliver Glasner on Chalobah potentially being recalled. Quote, Chelsea has the possibility to call him back, wants to stay here, but it's a decision Chelsea can take. We are passengers. We are not the pilot flying the plane. My wish and Trevor's wish is that he stays with us. Chelsea loaned him to us to give him minutes and to improve his game. I think he's not finished. It's a one-year loan deal, but we'll see, end quote. So there's that. Huntsville City Football Club has signed midfielder Christian Kofi, 24-year-old, joining the midfield for Huntsville City. Returning players as well. Let's see. Quote from Matt Cairns, comes from Chicago Fire 2. That was where he's from last season. All comps, 29 appearances, 22 starts, 5 assists, and 2 goals, including 1 against Huntsville City. So Christian Kofi from Chicago Fire 2 to Huntsville City Football Club. Nashville has announced their theme nights. Hearts of Pine has announced their stuff as they're getting closer to what's going on. Okay, it is, all right, from Major League Soccer. All right, let me do that again, just so I can do it again. Let me do it again. Let me hit it again. I'm still learning this. Okay, so it does fade. All right, good deal. All right, so it fades. I'm still trying to figure the thing out. All right, MLS announces the roster rules changes to increase roster construction flexibility. So here we go. Officially official. Yeah, and we'll get into the Tormenta signing too, because I did see that. All right. MLS clubs may now invest an unlimited amount of out-of-pocket funds, cash, to acquire players via trade from within the league. The new initiative creates additional opportunities for top players to remain within MLS while further incentivizing player development and creating more pathways for MLS clubs to generate revenue on player movement. Remaining updates to the roster rules and regs allow clubs greater roster construction flexibility, provide more player opportunities. Okay, transfer windows. The 2025 transfer windows will see the secondary transfer window shift later to better align with the global transfer market. All MLS clubs will be able to acquire players in the secondary window from July 24 through August 21st. By shifting the transfer window, MLS clubs will have greater opportunities to acquire top players in the summer ahead of the push for the playoffs. So the primary window, January 31st to April 23rd, starts later, starts at the end of the European window, goes till April 23rd. Now, the secondary transfer window goes from July 24th to August 21st. So, secondary transfer window shifting officially. Then, the out-of-pocket funds. MLS clubs can use an unlimited amount of out-of-pocket funds to trade for players, allowing MLS clubs to acquire talent from within the league without having to use GAM or other assets. Clubs will, it's the 2 in, 2 out, like we talked about with Bogert and his story. Yeah. So update creates additional opportunities for top talent to remain. Let's get to the fact. Clubs allowed to acquire up to 2 players, trade away up to 2 per year for cash. Similar to transfer fees, clubs may convert revenue generated by these trades to GAM, and cash spent to acquire a player via trade will be applied to the player's salary budget charge. When utilizing cash, no other forms of compensation may be included in the trade terms. If a player acquired via a cash trade occupies a DP or U22, has to remain a DP or a U22 on the new club's roster during the guaranteed term of the contract. And to Tom's point, a club may now buy out 2 guaranteed contracts, including a DP, each year. Such buyouts are at the club's expense and may apply to any mutually terminated contract or to a contract that remains in effect. The buyouts may be conducted in season or during the off season. If the buyout is conducted in season, it must be concluded by the close of the secondary transfer window. So if you're going to buy out somebody, you got to do it by the end of the new secondary window, because then once again, that creates a window for that particular player to find a new home. GAM expiration dates. MLS has eliminated expiration dates for GAM. So your Garber bucks stay with you. Apart from GAM received as a part of the club's decision to opt into the U22 initiative model. GAM received under the U22 model must be used within the same league season and by the roster freeze date. Previously, GAM expired after 3 full transfer windows. Now it does not. Off-roster homegrown changes. Now eligible to appear in up to 6 MLS League matches, along with unlimited first-team appearances in cup competitions. So that comes up from 4. So, initially, off-roster homegrowns previously were only eligible for the standard 4 short-term agreements. Now it's up to 6. I still think that should be unlimited, especially if you have a team that is in multiple competitions and you're trying to win multiple titles. But 6 is more than 4, so at least you're progressing. Player must be 21 years old or younger during a calendar year to be eligible as an off-roster homegrown player. Once a club moves an off-roster homegrown player to the senior or supplemental roster, the player can't go back to an off-roster homegrown. Subject to the age limitations, players may continue to be off-roster homegrowns as long as they remain on their initial MLS contract. Yeah, DP buyouts are such a blunt instrument. You're out. See you. Outgoing DP loans. If an international club absorbs a DP player's entire salary during a loan period, the MLS side will open that DP player slot during the loan period, regardless of the player's initial acquisition cost. Previously, only young DPs and U22s were eligible to open during a player being loaned out. This will apply after a player's first season on an MLS roster, meaning year 2 or later. Player must occupy a DP slot at the time of the loan, or if the loan occurs in the offseason, player must have concluded prior to a prior league season as a DP. Roster construction model declaration. Once again, February 21st is your initial date. Clubs will conditionally have the opportunity to update their roster construction model between July 1st and August 21st. Remember late last year when teams in Major League Soccer could sit there and say we're either 3-3 or 2 or 4-2? This allows clubs more flexibility to acquire DPs and U22s in the secondary window, also providing another opportunity to invest in additional GAM. So, updates must be made between July 1st and the close of the secondary window, August 21st. U22 to DP model. Clubs must have used $1 million or less of the additional GAM and have no more than 3 U22s on the roster as of their updated declaration. And then DP to U22, the club may only invest up to $1 million of additional GAM during the remainder of the season and must have no more than 2 DPs on their roster for the updated declaration. So, club, once again, Amelia is asking about buyouts being new in season. Club may now buy out 2 each year. Club's expense, mutually terminated contract. Buyouts may be conducted in season or during the off season. I don't think that buyouts in season are new. It's just the way that this is worded as an emphatic. I think that if you were really mad and wanted to just buy somebody out, you can buy them out. But I think that now it's just morning, Abby. So club may buy out 2 guaranteed contracts each year. Buyouts are at the club's expense, may apply to any mutually terminated contracted player or to a contract remains in effect. Buyouts may be conducted in season or during the offseason. If the buyout is conducted in season, it's got to be concluded by the end of the window. I think that that's just wording. I think that's just where this is. So the roster rules updates have been announced. Transfer window, the secondary transfer window slides. Primary window, still January 31 to April 23. Secondary window, July 24 to August 21st, sliding. Out-of-pocket funds for player trades, 2 out, 2 in. That's official. So that means, once again, 2 out, 2 in. If it's a DP out, you can't, if you were the team receiving the designated player, you can't change him. You can't change him to a high TAM. If he's a DP when you get him, he's a DP. So you've got to have a DP slot available, or you've got to trading DPs. So same with U22s. So if you have a DP slot, or if you're trading for a DP, you obviously have to have a DP slot. You can't just, unless you declared 4 and 2, you got to make sure that DP stays a DP on your roster, that the U22 stays a U22 on your roster, and that you obviously got to have the space for it. You can't just sit there and continue to stockpile, DPs. It's like if you declared the 3 and 3 model and you trade for a 4th, obviously something's got to give. So DPs stay DPs on the trade. So 2 in and 2 out. Secondary transfer window slides. Player for cash is now part of the deal. 2 in, 2 out per year. And they've got to stay who they are. They can't change their identities when it comes to roster designations. You've got a second contract buyout now. GAM expiration dates don't exist anymore. And your off-roster homegrown changes, once again, eligible now up to 6 with unlimited first-team appearances in cup competitions. Used to be 4. Like I said, that's a start. So if you need roster help because of all the competitions you're in, you can now do off-roster additions up to 6 matches instead of 4. 21 years old or younger during the calendar year to be off-roster homegrown. And once again, they can't go back. Once a club moves an off-roster homegrown player to the senior or supplemental, they can't go back to off-roster homegrown. And then once again, you've got to declare once what your roster is going to be like by February 21st. Then you can conditionally change your roster construction model mid-season between July 1st and the end of the secondary transfer window, August 21st. So those, no info on new salary ceilings out of the release for Major League Soccer. That we don't have. So those are the new pieces of information, the new roster rules out by Major League Soccer. Al Nassr is in advanced talks to extend Cristiano Ronaldo's contract. So Ronaldo set to be offered over £3 million a week. Is CR39 really worth $156 million? Pounds? I guess so to Al Nassr. Positive and progressing. Also to become an official Saudi 2034 ambassador, extending Ronaldo by a year is seen as key, according to Ben Jacobs. Appetite from the player to stay in Saudi, thus put himself in contention for the 26 World Cup. Summer 25 also sees the renewal of domestic and international TV rights for the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. SPL executives feel it's crucial for Ronaldo to be a part of the new cycle, even if it's just for a year. £3 million a year. That's a week, sorry. Jaden Shaw, this is USWNT news. Jaden Shaw is acquired by the Courage from San Diego under contract through the 26th season. In exchange, so Jaden Shaw goes from San Diego to the Courage. This is also just out. Courage sent $300,000 in AM, an international spot for 25 and 26, and $150,000 in intra-league transfer fees to San Diego. So it's AM, cash, 2 international roster spots. The Courage could send up to an additional $75,000 and 25 AM to San Diego in exchange for up to $150,000 in intra-league transfer fees. So Jaden Shaw goes home for a lot of AM, international spots, and transfer fees. So Jaden Shaw is officially official. Roster rules updated by Major League Soccer. Jesper Sorensen is now officially official. Press conference set for 12:30 in Vancouver. So he's coming in as the new head coach in Vancouver. Tormenta has signed Taylor Gray to their roster. Signing by Ian Cameron. Gray went through DC Academy. Maryland Bobcats in 21, Chattanooga FC in 22. Was with Chattanooga FC in MLS Next Pro last year. So right now, Sam Jones and Austin Pack in net. Austin Pack was picked as one of the big pickups in the offseason in USL League One for Tormenta. Gabriel Alves, Jackson Kasunzu, Anatoly Prepolita, you remember him from Chattanooga, Callum Stretch. Connor Doyle, Mason Turnbridge in the midfield, Taylor Gray, and Niall Reed Steven, Sebastian Vivas. So Prepolita and Gray coming from Chattanooga FC. Austin Pack coming also from USL League One of the big gets of the year. So Tormenta and Ian Cameron not messing around. They are not messing around at all when it comes to who they're picking up. So that is what you're looking at. So that's the way to end the show. Roster construction rules have been changed, added to, and augmented by Major League Soccer. Jaden Shaw goes back home to North Carolina Courage to play in the NWSL for a lot of allocation money, for a couple of international slots, and intra-league cash. So allocation money, intra-league cash, international slots. San Diego trading Jaden Shaw to North Carolina Courage. That happened this morning. Vancouver has a new head coach. And let's see. So we talked about San Jose and what it's going to look like up top. Who's going to be the alpha? New financial rules in the Premier League. Looks like Leicester City is still in the crosshairs. Rob Valentino, apparently, it was reported that he interviewed for a couple of things, including Vancouver and the Canadian women's national team. Once again, player acquisitions in Cincinnati. Caleb Porter thinks he's getting the right guys. And an AI Hamas was created for Leon to announce Hamas in a gladiator-type move that went like 3 minutes and 44 seconds. And that was where it all went. So tomorrow, once again, the Atlanta United Information Exchange Program, Tyler Pilgrim joining us at 9:15. We'll see if the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, can join us at 10 to discuss what's going on in Major League Soccer from his perspective. And then we'll go through all the other news and all the other information that we have going on your Wednesday. Thursday, once again, hour number 1 open, Power Hour in hour number 2, Nino and Nico to let you know what's going on in their part of the world. Friday, wide open. We'll get you ready for the weekend, take you through all of the news and notes and everything, plus all the activity that happened in the Premier League. We'll get you through all of that as well. Wow. Okay. That's what happens when news breaks. We try to fix it. So back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05, a little less than 22. So that means since it is the end of the show, that means we get to do this. Mucha Platiel, play it safe. Enjoy the sun, that shiny thing up in the sky. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us for another round of SDH AM. See you tomorrow morning.